This episode of the D-Lou podcast is brought to you by Goalie Nutrition. As someone who's used Goalie for quite some time, I can tell you that they're not only very good, but they're very beneficial. My favorite are the Super Green Gummies. The Super Green Gummies are uniquely crafted with a spectrum of essential nutrients such as vitamins A, B12, folic acid, and thiamine. It supports a healthy liver function, healthy nervous and immune system, digestive health, a boost to your metabolism, and overall health and well-being. There are no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors from artificial sources. They're vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and gelatin-free. All loyal listeners of the D-Lou podcast get a special 10% discount at checkout. Go to goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. That's goalie.com, use promo code DLEW. This podcast is a Believe Network and Siete production. Welcome to another edition of the D-Lou podcast brought to you by Believe Network. I'm your host, Derrick T. Lewis. By the time you guys are getting this episode, I hope you guys have had a Merry Christmas and, of course, an upcoming Happy 2024. As I alluded to last week, there's not going to be any new content in regards to interviews or reviewing any wrestling shows or anything like that. This is going to be just the best of 2023. I'm going to personally handpick some of the interviews I did, throughout the year, with some talented individuals, whether it's wrestling, recording artists, actors, influencers, models, etc., etc., all the people that, took the time out of their schedules, to come on to my show and talk about what they got going on. So that's what this episode is going to be about. And I wish you all, a happy holiday season. Hope it's all well spent with your family, your loved ones, your friends, and everyone that you know. So let's not wait any longer. The best of 2023 episode starts right now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the most important interviews that I've done since I relaunched this podcast back in January. This individual, we've known each other in the Twitterverse. We met maybe about 3 years ago, I want to say. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. And we didn't even talk wrestling. We were talking pop culture stuff. And she's wrestling royalty, but being a fan of her father and being a fan of both her brothers, this is really an honor for me to have this individual on the show. Her brothers, right now, the natural Dustin Rhodes, he's a producer and also one of the wrestlers in AEW. Her brother, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, current WWE Superstar, and one of my heroes, the late, great American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who I watched since I was a kid. But I have another piece of the wrestling royalty, and that's the one and only Teil Rhodes. Thank you so much for coming on to the D-Lou podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. You said it best. We've been, we were early Twitter friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And right off the bat, I had an opportunity to watch the A&E documentary on Dusty. And to say that it was emotional for me is an understatement, but every story has its beginning. So let's talk about the beginning for you. So let's talk about childhood, growing up between Charlotte, Atlanta, Tampa, and Texas.
Yeah. So, back then, Dusty was always behind the scenes as well as an in-ring talent, and his in-ring career, was winding down. So we did move a lot. We moved when, they were in Charlotte with Crockett, and then we moved, to Texas briefly. That was also, I think, a Crockett move. And then, in between, we always moved back to Florida, Tampa, where I was born, my mom's hometown. Obviously, Florida Championship Wrestling there, and ended up in Atlanta, the metro area, when Turner, bought WCW, and Dusty was based here in Atlanta.
Okay, got it. Okay, so in regards to that, so just being able to move around a bit, what was the experience like being able to see all of these different parts of the country?
It was great. We are a close-knit family, and I think that part of that, the reason my younger brother Cody and I are so close is because we did move a lot as kids. And it's definitely not always fun to move when you're little, so it's good when you have a built-in friend. But I definitely can't say that I enjoyed moving around so much, but it was just our lifestyle. We just got used to it.
Yeah, just hearing stories about the territory days. I'm talking about in the 70s and in the 80s, as far as, some wrestlers may be in one territory for 6 to 8 months if they're wrestling for, let's say, Don Owen out in Oregon, and then they have to go down to, let's say, Minnesota with Vern Gagne, or down in Texas.
Minnesota was a big one for Dusty before he met my mom, but he spent a lot of time with Vern up there. He loved it up there. He learned to ski there. But yeah, back then it was definitely, you're in the car on the plane. Yeah.
Indeed.
No buses.
No, not the luxurious lifestyle now, for sure.
No bus culture back in the day.
Nope.
Maybe a Greyhound.
That's about it if you're exactly. Yeah. Now, when did you realize that, wow, my dad's a professional wrestler, he's on TV? So what age did you realize it, and what was, I guess, was it shocking, or tell me a little bit more about that?
I just think I always knew. I don't think it was shocking. I think I knew early on that we were a different family from, this isn't when, there was, the area we live in Atlanta now, there's lots of pro ball players, lots of athletes down the street. But, we moved into kind of conservative type communities, and we were always kind of the Addams family, we used to joke, in the neighborhood. But I think that I knew he was famous pretty early on because I went where he went. So, the back of the arenas, shows, things like that. I didn't really understand kind of the scope of it until I was much, much older.
Got it.
Like college.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now, were you ever a fan of it? I guess obviously,
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a wrestling fan. But really I was a fan of his. And then, later during the big WCW days, I definitely had some favorites. But yeah, I was always a wrestling fan. Wrestling was just a part of our lives, the way some families do, they camp or they, do certain things together. We were a wrestling family.
Got it. So when did he let you in on, obviously, the big secret in regards to this is all a work or anything is like that? When did you discover it on your own?
Never.
Or did he?
Never. We never once ever had any conversation about wrestling, so-called, being fake or not being real or anything like that.
Right.
I always understood it as a movie, as storytelling, and, you don't want to know the end of a movie when you sit down with your popcorn, as the movie starts. But we never had that conversation because I, unlike my brothers, wasn't, breaking into the business or trying to get into the business. I just kind of liked the magic of it on its own. And he would come in and do career day at our school. And I know some of the other wrestlers, did that for their kids. I learned later, which I just think is hilarious. But, and some kid would always, say, well, is it fake? Is wrestling fake? And he would say, well, what do you think? Do you think wrestling's fake? And he would never say, that it was. Never.
Right. Dusty's influence on wrestling and just his aura, his energy. What are your thoughts on the American Dream persona and what he meant to wrestling?
I think energy is a good word. I think that he had a a big kind of light. And not that, you know, he was perfect or that he didn't make mistakes or anything like that, but he was a very optimistic person at his core, very, you know, he believed in himself, he believed in other people, but he really kind of, like you and I were talking before before we started, he believed it was never too late. You know what I mean? That, you know, whatever your big dreams were that were out there, they were achievable. You know, it didn't matter if you were 40 or if you were 14 or if you were 84. He really did believe that. And he did kind of have, I want to say, just a charisma about him and a humor that kind of translated in all facets of his life.
There's a Twitter page, and I think they're on Instagram too, called No Context Dusty, and just some of the goodness, it's like I chuckle now because I mean, as a kid, a lot of stuff just goes over your head, but just looking back at it now, I'm like, this dude was so funny. And I don't think he was trying hard. He wasn't even trying hard to do it. It was just, as I said earlier, I just felt his energy through the television. That's what drew me to Dusty Rhodes as a kid in the 80s, when even before the Hard Times promo, just the way he just carried himself. You know what I mean? He wasn't wearing, you know, the $1,000, $10,000 suits or anything like that. He was just the guy you could see walking down the street, and he could relate to everybody. He was so relatable to everybody, and that's what made Dusty Rhodes just such a lovable person, character, everything in between. But in your estimation, being that you know him very well, obviously, what was the most misunderstood thing about Dusty?
Oh wow, that could be danger zone. One of the things I think that he was misunderstood about was that he had some kind of hard feelings about, you know, kind of behind the scenes things that happened. I also think, you know, people talked a lot about his size. Even in his death, it was, you know, it's the first or second line of every obit that you read was that he wasn't a, you know, Adonis, or that, you know, he, you know, didn't look like the athlete. But really, truthfully, none of those things bothered him. It was all just part of the persona of the American dream, not just in size, but, you know, kind of the silliness we talked about. He could be very funny and very silly, but he was a deeply thoughtful, creative, intelligent person. He was very smart.
Indeed. And speaking of that intelligence, you know, once he was really behind the scenes, and obviously I caught on to, obviously I didn't know, obviously as a kid, that who was behind the scenes until later, but all the things that Crockett, you know, I remember watching one episode where the Horsemen did the hit on Dusty and they filmed it, and me and my grandmother literally got upset. You know what I mean? And I was just like,
well,
you know what I mean? Just like all these other things.
I know. Terrible Horsemen.
Yeah. and they had the audacity to film it, right? But did he ever think about or ever say anything to you or to your mom or to your brothers or even to your sister about ever becoming a film director? Because looking back at all the stories that he was behind, all the characters that every person's career that he had a hand in. Yeah.
He did. He wanted to be a filmmaker. He wanted to be a director, an actor. He had written a screenplay, you know, and he would always go back to it and work on it. I remember it was really dark. And, you know, I think it's set in a drawer forever. But, you know, back then there really was kind of a stigma against wrestlers in mainstream entertainment. And, you know, he did later do some, you know, bit TV parts. You know, he always did commercials and things like that. But I do think had the industry been different, you know, maybe he would have been a director. But even in wrestling, he did consider himself, you know, a director, a producer of television, of, you know, episodic TV.
amazing. I mean, just again, so many different stories. I mean, just his way of painting the picture, even as an on-screen character, blew me away constantly. It always made you listen. You couldn't, in other words, thank goodness there was no what chance back then, but just being able to lean in and listen to every word that he said was, again, man, it was younger fans, you had to have been there to understand. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, it's cool though that younger, we were talking about the documentary, that hopefully a new generation of young fans will discover him and go back and watch some of those old matches and clips, and kind of see where, some things began.
Definitely. What was the biggest piece of advice that he gave you?
We were talking about this the other day. He was a big be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
To thine own self be true. He wrote it in my yearbook, and he always wrote that. And he was a prolific writer of notes and letters and love letters to my mom and his kids. But that was a big one. And I was joking with my husband the other day. I was like, maybe I've been myself too hard. Like maybe I've gone too hard in the just be yourself, because I really was raised like that. And when you have confidence early on, obviously, you're going to get kicked down and get humbled by life a little, but like once it's in you, it's almost too late to care, So I think that for me was the biggest advice, was just to be yourself, not to try to fit into other people's expectations or ideas about, who you should be or what you should be doing.
That's really, really good advice, because a lot of times people do listen to the wrong people, especially those that shouldn't even be giving advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And you're in, creative industries, the feedback can be brutal. It can be rough.
Very.
So you kind of just have to, you can't let that penetrate, those deeper layers.
Definitely, definitely. Now let's talk about the A&E special. Like I said, I had an opportunity. I actually watched it as it happened, but I also watched it again, right before I did this interview, because I really wanted to just get some of the things. Because sometimes when you watch something as it happens, there may be a few things you may have missed or anything like that. But I really wanted to watch it.
It was full. Yes,
very, very full.
It was full. Yeah.
So let's talk about all the logistics involved. How did it all come to be that this documentary was going to happen on A&E with WWE?
Well, I wish I could say that it went very smoothly and that it was a breeze, but it wasn't. It was we were very, Cody being the executive producer, we really wanted to, for the first time, really be in charge of telling what we felt like was the truth. And that's not just the timeline of some things that happened in his life, getting that correct. But, obviously there were some subjects that had been touched on, personal family things that were kind of made to be a storyline in, the WWE that didn't necessarily go down exactly like that from the other side. And I think it was important not to perpetuate some things that were kind of fictional, that were part of, a Gold Dust storyline or something like that. So that was a big hurdle. And then the other part was, my mom opened up what we call the vault, which has, all the clippings you saw, all the family photos, all his booking journals, all the writing. Rob, the director, Rob Liano, did a great job, but you have a family with a lot of personalities. Each person has their own version of Dusty. So I think just the kind of weight of all that, he probably felt heavily, because it was a lot to just sort through, just, from all the stuff we had from his whole career.
Right. And the one thing that touched me the most was Dustin's story in relation to Dusty, because in a way, I lived the same way. I had the same experience with my dad, because my dad was also an entertainer. My dad sang with the Drifters. Right. And I only saw my dad maybe 6 months out of the year, but even I'm really giving my kind of a little behind the curtain on my story, but it was just I always wanted that, relationship with my dad, and then
Connection.
right,
Yeah.
physical, right, and then eventually when I was 9, my dad left. He went like 5,000 miles away, and I didn't see him for 10 years. And
Oh, wow.
I didn't see him for 10 years. And the part where Dusty and Dustin had reconciled in Jacksonville,
Yeah,
which,
Barry Windham.
yeah, with Barry Windham.
Yeah,
And
I always give Barry credit, because I don't know that Dustin, that had gone on for so long. Dustin was the one who disengaged from that relationship, and he had his own reasons, which they, are well treaded in wrestling about their fallout. But, I don't know if he would have spoken to him at that point. And, those were certainly, it was hard to relive on screen for sure, because those were sad years for sure.
Right. And it was when Dustin, like when he really told his story, it pulled at me like, oh my God. And the city where me and my dad reconciled, guess where it was at? Jacksonville.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
When his mom, my grandmother, had passed away, and that was the first time I had seen him in 10 years. So when that story was told, I was just like, oh my God. And it was just like, okay. It was one of those things where it's like, you know what, we're all human.
Yeah. And you can't give up on relationships that are important to you, but it's a two-way street,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Both people. Yeah.
And definitely. So once everything was, put together, as far as A&E was concerned, what was I guess for you personally, what was the highlight of filming that whole entire project?
It really did. We were able to heal from it. It was, the highlight for me was showing it to my kids, because, they remember him, but they were, especially my youngest, quite small when he passed away.
Oh, okay.
So I do like to see those interviews of him where he's, himself, where he's not giving a promo, where he's just talking. And it's so special that my kids and his other grandkids, and now Dakota just had a great grandchild, that they'll be able to know him that way. They can't know him physically, but we have all this great footage and this kind of great family story. And then the other highlight was obviously highlighting the Dusty Foundation.
Yes, and that was going to be my next question for you. So let's talk about it. So the Dusty Foundation, I'll just give a very brief description of it. Obviously, dealing with youth sports all around the country, and people can donate money to I guess underprivileged. It's some areas where they need the funding. You know what I mean? Obviously, when you're running a football team, baseball, whatever it is, it costs money for uniforms, equipment, etc. Travel. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Everything. So let's talk about how it was discovered, whose idea was it, and just give us the whole everything about the Dusty Rhodes Foundation.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So when he passed, we, my siblings and I, my mom, we had agreed we wanted to do something. One of the touching things after he passed was people gave, to a children's hospital in his name, and people were very generous after his passing, and they did things like that. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had some kind of way to honor him, through something that he loved. And I think I had the idea of it being sports, and that was kind of like a no-brainer. But we didn't get started with it until later, when we really felt like we could all kind of have a hand in it. And he was such a big believer, not only that youth sports, would keep kids out of trouble, which we know it does,
right,
but that it builds life skills, and that you are exposed to maybe people that are different from you. And, you get to be a part of a team, and you just learn a lot of life skills, playing sports. But unfortunately, with just the kind of rise of cost in everything and the kind of rise of these kind of one sports, families are specializing in one sport when the kid is really small and doing, these really expensive travel programs.
Right.
Well, not every kid can play in those leagues and play travel ball and, those kind of things. And we just think that, if we can help, it's from local little leagues to high school sports to middle school sports, where we can make a difference really is in those areas that they've just been kind of missed, or they have a really specific need. Like you mentioned equipment. It is so expensive, sports equipment. I mean, a football helmet, it's great that football helmets are so much, better now and they're safer, but I want to say, they're anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per helmet.
Easy.
So we're just looking to fill those gaps.
Got it. Now, where can people find, we'll talk about more in just a second. So where can people go to, whether they want to read up about it, if they want to donate money or anything of the sort, where can they go for more information?
Okay, so you can follow us on Instagram at the Dusty Foundation and or the Dusty Rhodes Foundation, on Instagram. And that I update. We do a lot of signings at some of the Comic Cons. We've done Starcast. I have we have something cooking for SummerSlam in Detroit for
really?
a con. Yes, and we also have the website, which is www.dustyrhodesfoundation.org. And that is where the links are. You can donate. You can give a one-time donation, or you can make it recurring. The only fees that we've taken are just basically what PayPal, what they take.
Right.
We've given everything away so far. We've also had a lot of really generous people involved. Like, Sean Spears, he's donated all his signing, all his travel, everything like that when he does signings for us. So we have people that just really believe in what we're doing, and we've been really lucky. After the doc aired, we got a ton of donations, and we're still kind of writing some checks and spreading some of that new money out right now, and that's really exciting.
It's good because, like, for example, like Snoop, like, he has the youth football.
He does huge football. So him and my dad, and it's so funny that him and Cody would work together later on Go Big Show, but he was a fan of my dad's and my dad was a fan of his. But I think one of the things they had in common was, Snoop built up that huge youth sports football, I believe in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Those programs there. And, the Dusty was a, football coach here. I think he coached for 7 or 8 seasons here in the Atlanta area. So, definitely big football connection there.
Yeah, because I was going to say that there's been so many people that has actually been drafted to the NFL that played in Snoop's football. I think Juju Smith-Schuster was one of the players, one of the kids that played. Yeah. So, I mean,
isn't that great?
It's amazing to hear that, because a lot of times, you see Snoop Dogg, the entertainer, and all those other things, but the fact that he's really making an impact in the community and using sports as a vehicle to bring kids in and to make them become the better version of themselves, then we tie into the Dusty Rhodes Foundation, and you have that same mindset. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because now, knowing, because I didn't even know that Dusty Rhodes even coached sports. I mean, I knew he played football. I know he went I'm a Patriots fan, so I heard he on the Steve Austin show back in 2013.
Yeah, to camp.
He went to camp with the Patriots.
He still had the invitation in a scrapbook. And that was part of all the stuff that we had to go through for the doc. Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. So that, again, it's amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, Dusty Rhodes Foundation.org. Give whatever that you can. Like I said, it's for the kids. You know what I mean? It's for the kids.
And we will keep people updated via both the website and the Instagram on where we sent the money. So you can follow along that way. So there's some transparency there. But I also, I just forgot, but I wanted to say one thing and I forgot what it was. But yes, we appreciate any donations, and they are going to a great cause. And we've got some, merch now for sale via PWTs and stuff like that on the foundation website as well.
Great. Let's talk about some current WWE stuff. I happened to be in Los Angeles covering WrestleMania. I was a part of the media, and I realized, I said, oh my God, Teal's at ringside. And I was completely like, oh, okay, this is gonna be great.
Well, we were in a box, and then they moved us down for Cody's match. And SoFi is such a beautiful stadium, but being down in the center of that, I mean, that was such a huge crowd. It was really like being at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, you couldn't hear any sound down there during the match. It was wild.
And I was going to ask you, what was it like seeing your little brother take that walk down that ramp, being in the main event of WrestleMania?
Yeah.
The first Rhodes to main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah. You can see in the pictures that he put on his Instagram that I was like, oh my God, please don't put that picture, because I'm crying in the picture, because it was very emotional. Right when he came down, and I saw him, and Libby was with us, my cousin who works for WWE, he's there ringside, our cousin Berkeley. So it was just really emotional. And of course I thought about my dad and kind of that moment too, but really it was more about Cody and this kind of this amazing, will not to give up on this dream he had, which was to be a main eventer, and obviously he didn't win the big one, but we're still after it. We're still going. But yeah, it was a really special moment. I think, I'll always remember it.
As a fan, I was extremely proud, but most importantly, just being in the business, and I'm in the press box, just seeing him, and it was just like, man, like I still remember when he debuted in 2007, teaming up with Hardcore Holly, and now he's the guy. And I was at the Superstore, and I'm seeing all his merch. As a matter of fact, shout out to my friend Scott Marshman and his husband John. Their son, their son is a huge Cody fan, and they asked me to. I was like, "Who is this?" Oh, look, Cody! I got him a Cody shirt, and I sent it back to Jersey. So shout out to John and Scott. I definitely wanted to do that. And again, that was an incredible week. So give us one funny Dusty story, like if it's like just one of the ones that you can say, "Oh man, this is hilarious."
I mean, there's so many. We joke all the time, but I have a 15-year-old daughter, so we're teaching her to drive, and I joke, my dad taught me to drive. I'm not teaching her. My husband's teaching her. And anyway, my dad had this giant F-350 dually diesel Ford pickup truck. It had like lights on the top. At night, it looked like a spaceship coming. I mean, it was just so obnoxiously big. And he made me take my driver's road test in that truck. And I didn't even make it off out of the parking lot. I had hit so many cones that they didn't even let me out of the thing. And he wasn't in the car. He's standing out there, with other people waiting for their kid to be tested. And he just laughed and laughed. He thought it was hilarious. And I was so upset. I was like, I'm never going to be able to drive. And I think it was a rib. I think he did it on purpose. He was a huge practical joker. And, like a couple days later, we borrowed like a neighbor's little, two-door sports car. And I took it in that, and I passed, and it was fine. But I think that he just thought it was funny. I think he was like, yeah, well, she'll take it in this.
Got it. What does it mean to you and the family that Dusty is to this day so beloved by millions?
Well, I mean, it's such a high honor that people still regard him so highly and still hold him in their hearts. People that grew up watching him, like you were saying, I think you mentioned your grandma, those memories of watching wrestling with people that you love when you're a kid, they just stayed with a lot of people. And even now when people meet us or meet my kids. They want to shake our hand or say something kind. And it really does mean a lot to us. And it certainly has lifted me up in times where I felt, like I was really missing him. So we just feel so grateful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to have this individual on the D-Lew podcast. She's an entrepreneur, model, philanthropist, reality show star, and everything under the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Chrissy Monroe to the D-Lew podcast. How are you, Chrissy?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to come on and talk to us on the show. So right off the bat, I wanted to talk about, the last 2 years for you. And obviously we were hit with the global pandemic, and obviously you being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, just basically it affected a lot of people. So I just wanted to ask, what were the ups and downs for you with the global pandemic?
Well, honestly, I actually enjoyed it. I welcomed it because for the first time in my entire life, I had a break from working and hustling so hard. I've been working pretty much since I've been 12 years old, nonstop, continuously. And I had my own plastic surgery business on Madison and 59th. So that shut down abruptly due to the pandemic. And then I was relieved. Like I said, it was a break for me. I was like, phew, I get to stay home and just chill.
Right.
And then I enjoyed, a few months, my summer, here and there, like, there'd be some little private parties, and things like that. Of course, the clubs were closed, but it was great having that downtime. But then that September, I got a blood clot in my liver. And I was hospitalized and almost died. I was in the hospital for a month. That September, I got out in October. Come to find out, they found a blood clot in my portal vein, which is the vein that goes through your liver, and it was blocking the oxygen to my organs in my body. I was in the hospital for a month. I lost 30 pounds. I had 5 surgeries in 5 days. I was in a coma. The priest came. I mean, it was a lot. And that was during the pandemic. So what made it suck was I couldn't even have anyone. They weren't allowed to bring me anything. My visitations were very limited because of the COVID. So I had a few visitors, not as many, a lot of people wanted to see me, but they had to go through downstairs at the hospital. No one was allowed to bring me outside food or drinks, which was a nightmare. Right. But I was just happy to be alive. And, it was a big wake up call for me. And it happened during the pandemic. So I knew once that things cleared up, I made up my mind in the hospital that I was never going to go back to the medical industry, which was the surgery field that I just, abruptly left.
Right.
I decided on a lot of things when I was laying in that hospital bed. It was life changing. So I don't think that was due to the pandemic, but it happened during the pandemic, of course. Right. It was not COVID related. It was actually due to drinking a liquid collagen supplement that I had no idea was, a blood thickener, and my body wasn't breaking it down. So the pandemic, to answer your question, was very life-changing for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can remember when, for sure. And I remember when all of that went down with, when you were in the hospital, and I was legitimately worried. I had checked in with Dawn, actually, and I was like DMing her, hey, is she okay? Is she okay? Is she okay? And once you were, I knew you were okay when you had posted a video and you were thanking God you were able to eat a crab leg for the first time in over a month. So I was like, okay, Chrissy's good. Yes. Chrissy's good.
A crab leg, I'm good. If it's about a crab
Absolutely.
leg, I'm good.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So you're from Baltimore, and tell us a little bit about what life was like for Chrissy growing up in Baltimore.
Ooh, have you ever watched The Wire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very true to life, very real. I grew up in Baltimore City, inner city Baltimore, East Baltimore to be exact, and it was not pretty. It was very gritty, very rough. A lot of drugs, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of crime, the fast life, and that's what I grew up with. I started working in the strip clubs at age, I think, 16. Oh, wow. Just fast money, fast life. That's all I knew, though. I had a very dysfunctional family. So everything was just about getting a dollar. I mean, it was nothing else to really think about. Like, it wasn't really like the normal upbringing. I'm a high school dropout, come from a very dysfunctional, drug addicted, alcoholic family. So, I was the youngest. So I learned a lot from other people in my family's mistakes, what I didn't want to be like. So, but I was just always a hustler and worker, and just stayed focused. I had a vintage clothing store for 3 years. I started dating a guy from New York when I was 17 till I was 27. He was a drug dealer from New York. He had gotten murdered when I was 27. And that was another turning point in my life where I said, if I don't leave Baltimore now before I'm 30, I made the plan to leave before I was 30 because I knew I wanted to act and model, and not be in Baltimore anymore. They call it Smaltimore. It's the 11th largest city in the United States, but everyone knows everybody. It's kind of that limited mentality. And I started acting and modeling when I was 12, and I did a lot of things, and was an extra on anything and everything that came through Baltimore. I was on a Baltimore City soap opera that aired on Baltimore City cable. But it was just only so far I was really going to go in Baltimore, to be realistic. I knew I had to be where the work was, which was only a 3-hour drive away in New York. And I had gotten familiar with dating this guy that was murdered. Him from being in New York, we would come and spend money on the weekends and go to all the hot clubs, and I would see all the celebrities and models, and I would be like, wow, it was a whole nother universe for me, that I was accustomed to being in the streets, that I wanted to just elevate myself. I said, I'm going to New York. Like, I don't even care. Like, I got rid of my vintage clothing store. I sold my house. I had a pretty nice life in Baltimore, and actually very nice life. I didn't have any reason to leave, but I really didn't have a reason to stay. I knew I wasn't fulfilled, and I knew I had bigger plans for myself, which was to get into the entertainment industry. And I did exactly that. I left when I was 29. I knew 2 people when I moved here. That was my ex that got murdered's cousins, and I started over. I started dancing at Sue's Rendezvous in Mount Vernon, made a lot of contacts in the entertainment industry, and the rest is kind of history. It's been great ever since.
Wow. And I was gonna ask you what forced you to move to New York City. That was gonna be my next question. But also underneath that, being in, in my opinion, the largest city in the world, in my opinion, how were you able to adjust, living in living in Baltimore like your whole entire life, and uprooting and moving to a large city like New York? How were you able to navigate and adjust through that?
Well, Baltimore is a city. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's the 11th largest city. It's not exactly small, you know what I'm saying? But it is a city. Actually, Baltimore, to me, in my opinion, is way worse than New York. It's a city. Like, it's bad. Like, it's just more impoverished, and it's a whole nother level of poverty and crime and mentality, that I felt like New York was like moving to like Beverly Hills. Like, even the rough parts to me was nothing coming from where I'm from. So
Wow.
It wasn't even an adjustment. It was a step up for me. Like, I was like, this is nothing. Like, these people are kind of soft, and from where I'm from, like they like really, the bums even are fly. Like, you know what I'm saying? The
Wow.
homeless people even got on nice. Some of them got on designer. Like, it's not like that in Baltimore. Like, they'll rob you for $5. They'll kill you for $5. Like,
Wow.
So to me, I felt more at ease here. Like, I felt like it was just classier. Like, it was just a different vibe. And then I liked going down to the Village. I loved shopping in Soho. I loved the nightlife. Like, New York was a different place when I moved here 22 years ago. Like, it's not like it is now. It's whack now, in my opinion. But it was a whole vibe. Like, it was just lit. Every night you wanted to be out, and you would see real stars and A-list people. There was a real VIP. You'd be at the China Club and see A-list people, and you'd see Eddie Murphy at the club, and, amazing things. Not like now, where all you have to do is buy a bottle to get into the VIP. You had to actually be a VIP. You know what I'm saying? So it was lit, and it's just, everything was just so dope. There were brunches and just all kind of just great restaurants that were trendy, and everybody would be at, and the nightclubs were popping. BMF would come through, and you just the whole spectacle of everything was just amazing. It was just, you just didn't want to miss out. You never wanted to miss a night. So
For sure.
it was no adjustment. Yeah, but the adjustment was I was already coming up on the weekends all the time. So it wasn't really a big adjustment.
Right.
It was just a step up, and I was here for it. I was just loving every second.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Now, on that note, you were on season 5 of Love and Hip Hop, and that was, very popular reality show. So what went into you being casted for that show, for that season?
Just me watching the show, and I'm like, wow, this is really my life. Like, before TV, I was already known. I guess you would say infamous. Like, people knew me, they knew of me. I knew all the celebrities, I knew all the ball players. Like, I was in the nightlife. So,
right.
I was like, this is really my life. Like, I don't rap, I don't sing, but I know everybody in the industry. I got all the jewelry. I'm already fly. Like, it's my life. This is my real life. Like, I need to get on that show. So, one of my very close friends is married to a big A-list celebrity. We're still friends to this day. I said, girl, I need to get on that show. Do you know anybody that's on that show or can get me? And she said, I do. She had a friend that knew somebody on the Atlanta cast for the first season, and they made a call. The girl, she put me in touch with the girl. I sent the girl a few pictures. I didn't have any really great pictures at the time. And a little biography of some of the work that I've done. And I had an interview in Mona's office 2 days later, and the rest is history. They love me. I mean, I just went in, and I knew that was my chance, like the Eminem song, you only get one chance.
One shot, exactly.
That was my one shot. And I brought the dog with the dog collar, the long 22-inch ponytail, and just the whole, outfit and the whole look and the whole personality, and that the rest is history. So.
And as an actor myself, I can tell you, I've been in those situations before where it's like one contact, you know what I mean, can change your life. You know what I mean? Somebody, someone, you're one contact away from realizing your dream. So, like the old saying goes, always treat people with respect, because you never know who you may run into in 10 years. That's definitely for sure.
Absolutely.
Now let's take another deep dive for just a second. Now, we follow each other on social media, and again, I thank you very much for coming on to the show today. You were taking care of your dad, during, but obviously for maybe like a year or so, before he ultimately had passed away. What was it? What did it mean to you being there for him after all of the things you had gone through in your childhood?
It meant that I knew I was right with God, and I knew I was right and doing the right thing as a human being. Because, like I said, I didn't say, but my father kicked me out when I was young. I remarried when I was 16, and his wife and I used to fist fight. All her kids, she had 6 kids, they were all grown, and she really just didn't want me around. Like, she just wanted to be him and her, and she was a very uneducated woman, very low class woman. I'm being nice. I'm putting it nicely. And we used to fist fight, and my father basically kicked me out and chose her over me, and I was hurt. Imagine, you're still a kid, you're a teenager, and your father gets married to the evil stepmother, and they don't want you there, and you really get kicked out, and you have nowhere to go. That's how I ended up homeless as a teenager and working in the strip clubs at an early age, as a way to support myself. I was in straight survival mode. But I know my father was a good man. My father never put his hands on us. He never touched me. He never did anything. It just, after I grew to get older, I grew to appreciate my stepmother, the fact that she was taking care of my father in his older age. My father was a good man, and I know my father loved me very much. I had a resentment for a long time, but I got over that, and it helped actually mold me into being the independent person that I grew up to be. And I just put all that aside when his wife died of liver cancer. And I know, my father's legally blind. Here he is. He was 82 years old, in the diapers, pretty much can't walk, needed a wheelchair, with dementia, beginning stages of dementia. Who was going to get him? Nobody. There was nobody to take care of him. His wife died abruptly. She hid the cancer from everyone. She died suddenly, and there was no one for him. So I went down, literally put him in my car and brought him to New York. And he didn't know. I told him we were going to the store. And that was it. The house was filthy. There were bed bugs, roaches. It was very we didn't know how bad the situation was because they hid it and didn't want anyone in their business. A lot of older people are like that. They're old school. They don't want nobody in their house. They don't want anybody in their business. So, and I'm in New York. I'm 3 hours away. So, I didn't know how bad it had gotten until my brother told me what was going on over there. So I said, no, I'm taking Dad with me. So I put him up here, a mile away from me in a nursing home, because I'm by myself. I don't have anyone here during the day to watch him. I was running the surgery business. I still got bills to pay, and I can't leave my father in my house to burn it down. He loves smoking cigarettes. So the best thing for me was to put him in a nursing home a mile away, so they could give him his medications. They could give him his special soft diet, change his diaper. I don't want to change my father's diaper. I want him to still have his pride as a man and, not to be humiliated.
Right.
So, I let them basically do all the heavy lifting, and it worked out. I got to spend a year with my father, getting to know him all over again and hearing stories that I never knew. But then again, it was also painful for me to watch him cry for his wife. He didn't remember going to her funeral. I kept having to tell him, she went to Atlantic City, or she, at the casino, she went to the flea market, just to keep him calm so he wouldn't panic. I didn't know, there's no manual telling you how to deal with people with Alzheimer's or dementia. This was all new for me. But it wasn't as bad as, I thought it was going to be. Like, it was sad knowing, he was deteriorating, but he knew who I was. That was the good thing. Like, and honestly, when he died, I can't even be mad because I got to be with him. He died of pneumonia related complications. I think it was COVID, honestly, but thank God it happened when it did, because it was a week before they shut down the nursing homes and they shut down the hospital. So if it would have happened a week later, this is how I know I'm so blessed. It's just everything has always been in my favor. I got to hold his hand. I got to sign the papers. I got to make sure they gave him the morphine and he passed comfortably. They gave us a private room. It was just me and him. I got to hold him. But if it would have been a week later, he would have been alone. He would have died alone. He would have been confused. And I don't think I'd ever honestly be able to live with myself if that would have been the case. But that wasn't the case. Thank God. So I got to be with him, and I'm at peace with it, that I stepped up no matter what happened in the past. I didn't let the past make me bitter and turn my back on him as an old man who needed me, who had no one. I know I did the right thing. And I hope anybody listening would do the same for a parent. I don't expect, if you were molested or anything like that, to, you don't know anyone's situations, but if your parents were a good person, it was just some teenage BS or whatever, get over it. Be there for your parents, because people need people. So I'm at peace with it. Like, I know I did everything I could to make him comfortable in his last year, make him happy. And, like I said, I'm at peace with it. So it was a great experience for me, honestly. I got that was a blessing. A lot of people never get to really have their parents back in their life again, or catch up. And I got to see him at a different point of my life as a mature adult, not the rebellious teenager that I was. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, to say that it's an honor and a privilege to have someone on my show, I don't just say it just for the art, just for the sake of just saying it, but when I truly mean, in my opinion, a giant in the DJ music space, I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. This man, he was once the official DJ for the New Jersey Devils, but he is currently the official DJ for the following: the Big Ten Conference, the Little League World Series, the USFL, and Army football. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only DJ Yoshi. Thank you for coming on. How you doing, man?
What's up, D? Thank you for having me.
Hey man, like I said, it's an honor to have you on. You know, you're extremely busy, and to take the time to do my show, like I'm truly honored. But let's get right into the interview, man. Um, you grew up in the North Jersey, New York City area, so let's talk about life growing up in the area.
Ooh, what do you want to talk about?
Everything, whatever you are in, I guess, whatever you're comfortable talking about.
We're going to talk about pizza. We're going to talk about how in some areas everyone's Italian.
Everything.
How everyone knows somebody who knew someone from The Sopranos.
Yeah, right. So what was it like for young Yoshi growing up in the area?
Young Yoshi, so we were initially, New York City kids, and my parents decided to move us to Jersey. So basically, I don't remember living in New York as a kid. We're living in Jersey, and we were in Jersey City. And at the time, it was not Jersey City of what it is now, of gentrified and everything being beautiful. It was shoot 'em up, stab 'em up Jersey City, where the corner store down the end of the block, Mars Corner Store right on Newark Ave, that was generally a place for shooting stabbings. And my parents eventually, ponied up, moved us out of there, and they moved us to Livingston, which is an affluent neighborhood. And for those who don't know, at the time, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was like no black people and no Asian people in Livingston. It was like you went from being in an inner city to being in the legit burbs. And I loved it. I loved my parents for their sacrifice. When we first moved, it was a lot of money to buy a house in Livingston. It still is a lot of money to buy a house in Livingston.
For sure.
So there were times where we would have like rice and ketchup for dinner. And, my grandma would always say, oh, it's the meal of kings, rice, eggs, and spam, the meal of kings, or like rice and ketchup. You don't know how lucky you are unless you have rice and ketchup. And at the time you're thinking, man, I'm really living. Until we got a little bit older, and then, some of the folks who we went to school with, we saw the kind of money that they had. And it never made us question, our value. It was just, okay. And, that was my first experience in, okay, so there's people who have a lot of money in a big house. There's people who have a lot of money in a really big house. And then there's us. And I was okay, and I still am okay with how we grew up. We were safe, we were loved, and we had opportunity. That's all, a parent could ask for, and that's all that we wanted.
Yeah, man. And it's like, even me, it's like, I grew up in Newark, but as much as, people say, and some people look down upon, where I'm from or whatever. And I'm just like, listen, my mom sacrificed, and clearly, I made out okay. You know what I mean? So it's not about, the lack thereof. It's all about appreciation of what you do have, and you cherishing those things. And that's how you definitely bond as a family. So I'm definitely glad to hear and definitely tell your story in that regard. So while you were going to school in Livingston, so were you involved in sports? Were you involved in other activities or anything? Like, what were some of the things you were involved in while you were in school?
Yeah, the first thing that they got us involved in, of course, being an Asian family, was music. So the piano, started playing when I was 4 years old, and moved to Livingston. And then it was, okay, like, hey, I want to play basketball. I want to play baseball. Baseball was the first sport that I ever played. And it's my first love and my first passion. And then I fell in love with playing basketball. I played basketball throughout high school, and I really thought that I was going to go and play like D3 ball somewhere. I was just a dream, right, to do that. I knew it was never really going to happen, but it was just like, oh, it's nice to dream. It's nice to strive for a goal and strive for something bigger than just living. So I bowled also in high school. I was on the team that went to the state championship 2 years in a row.
Oh wow!
I could say that I had a 183 average and I blew it in the state finals. All I had to do was roll a 179. I rolled a freaking 95, bro.
Oh wow! What happened?
I folded to the pressure, D. I folded to the pressure.
Oh man! Wow! Wow! So you basically cut the average in half, and ultimately.
In front of my family, in front of friends that drove to see me, because I was already DJing.
Right.
And I was already in a club. So I was promoting it on AOL at the time, in different chats.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, come see me at the state championship game. And yeah, a 95, bro. I rolled a 95.
Wow. Well, sorry you had to go through that. And, man, ooh. I can't even imagine what the feeling of that. That's man.
I later went back to that lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I rolled a 279.
Vengeance.
2 years later, because I just needed that for myself.
Absolutely, nothing wrong with that.
You know, like Johnny Drama in Entourage at the final scene in the movie.
Yeah,
where he raises his arms, victory. That's exactly how I felt like Matt Dillon in that final scene of Entourage.
Right. Vindication, man. I love it. So you said your first exposure to music when you were 4, you were playing the piano. So just in regards to like popular music and everything, what artist was some of your first exposure into like pop culture music wise?
Oh, pop culture? Yeah, Beethoven. Yeah. Beethoven, bro. Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin. Those were the people that I was listening to, and those were the people that I was playing and understanding their music, and that stuff like really resonated with me. Classical music, I still love classical music. I will play classical music on my way to an event, on my way home from an event. Sometimes I play classical music at home if I'm cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And pop music wise, I was a rock kid growing up.
Okay.
Bon Jovi, U2, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard. Those were the groups that I was listening to. Aside from, the big pop sensations like Mariah Carey, NKOTB, Tiffany, Debbie Gibson.
Right. So basically, I mean, you and I we're very close in age. So we basically grew up in that MTV era where things were just, the exposure was there, for everybody. And just the bands that you mentioned, it's just like taking me back to like, man, like just, and they made an announcement that MTV News was going away after 36 years and just saying, man, that was part of my childhood. You know what I mean? So I totally get what you're saying there. So you alluded to it. You started DJing in 1996 and you were still in high school. So when did the DJ bug start to come around? When did you learn? How did it enter your mind to saying, I'm going to start spinning the ones and twos a little bit?
Yeah, I was in 6th grade when I learned. My brother graduated from 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And for graduation, he wanted turntables. So my parents gave him money, and he and his best friend and another friend, they came together. They bought Gemini turntables and a mixer from Radio Shack. Wasn't even a Gem Sound mixer, guys. It was that old school mixer from Radio Shack that you saw. And when my brother would go out, I would run downstairs and I would turn the turntables on and I would try to mix.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue what I was doing except for me watching him and watching videos and listening to Flex and Spin Bad, Red Alert, Capri. I would listen to how they were playing and what they were doing. I'm like, man, how did he do that? And that's basically how I learned until I got older, in 8th grade, and 2 world-class DJs just happened to be friends with my brother. and they taught me the legitimate ins and outs of how to mix, basic scratching, and how to format a party set, and how to make a mixtape. So shout out to Philly Blunt, shout out to Vin Rock. Those are the guys that I learned how to play from early on, and then I took that and I translated that to high school in '95, and I was doing high school parties, like high school dances, basement parties, and 1997 rolls around. I get invited to go play at the time it was the Blue Moose Tavern in New York. And I'm like, oh, it's just going to be a small bar. It was like a 2-story club.
Oh, wow.
So my first club experience in New York was the Blue Moose Tavern. I'm doing a college party there. And, I'm 16 years old doing a college party. And from there it was, well, hey, there are these promoters that want to book you. I'm like, okay, so let's do it. And my brother's just like, okay, well, I'll just manage your career to start. I was like, okay, cool. So he would take my mixtapes and he would pass them around, and we would put mixes up on AOL, like little 5-minute mixes that would take 5 hours to upload.
That 56K modem, right?
We were on 28.8. We were on 28.8, son. Oh, it's pre-56K.
28.8. Oh, man. See, okay, for a lot of you youngins that are listening to this episode right now, please understand how lucky and fortunate you are to have Wi-Fi connected to all of your wireless devices. Because, see, back in our day, and, in the late 1900s, we would have to actually put our phone jack, we had, plug the phone jack to the back of our actual tower computers and dial up to get onto the internet. And if somebody picked up the phone, it would knock you completely off. So that was the era, and that was the time that me and Yoshi grew up in, just for the record. But you mentioned exactly. But you mentioned Red Alert, you mentioned Capri, you mentioned Flex, and you mentioned some heavy hitters and some OGs in the game that's been doing this and has been uber successful in this game for decades. Guys that are respected, guys that I still respect to this very day, and the contributions they made to the culture. But that's incredible that, before the age of 18, like, you're DJing, college parties and everything, that's incredible. Speaking of college, you do go to Rutgers University, majoring in computer science, math, and music. So was it, once you got to college, you're going to classes and everything, was it an easy in to just DJ some parties at Rutgers, or you were pretty much doing the club scene at that point?
I was already doing clubs. It made it easier to get people to come to the clubs because my friends were finally old enough to come see me in the city. When you're 16 and you're in a sheltered environment that is Livingston, New Jersey, right? It's entitled predominantly white privileged children whose parents are doctors, surgeons, business owners. Like the average kid that I went to school with, this is how entitled they were. At 16 years old, they're getting like Range Rovers and Benzes, driving Audis. That's the generational wealth of what we grew up in, right? So super sheltered. They couldn't go out before. And speaking of Flex, Red Alert, and Capri, I was fortunate enough that when I was sick, by the time I was 16, I was playing at the Tunnel where Flex's main residency was. And that's how I got my break. Flex was on the main floor. Downstairs was Scissor Hands and Riz of the Crooklyn Clan. And Big Cap would open for Flex. And I was all the way at the top, go through the corridor, and then the small coat check area, and then go through the co-ed bathroom. And then there was just this room up there, and that's where I was. And one day, Cap wasn't able to open, and they asked me, "Hey, do you want to open on the main floor?" Like, fuck, open for Flex?
Big opportunity, right?
The main floor? That's, man, it's brought back all the memories and all,
Right.
all the feelings. Yeah. So by the time I got into college, then it was, oh, well, I've heard your mixtapes before, guys, because, back then, in 99, we were doing mixtapes or mini discs instead of CDs. Like, I actually didn't do my first mix CD until 2000, so people be like, oh, yeah, I heard your mixtape before. I'm like, oh, cool, come to the club. So it gave me the ability to work with promoters and say, hey, I want to make more money. Well, you need to bring people if you want to make more money. Well, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And people were promoting for my brother and his friends and other friends and my friends. They would promote for me on my nights that I'm at the clubs. So, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm playing sets, and 200, 300, 400 people would come out for me. Right? That's on top of the regular club people, but 200, 300, 400 people were coming out. I'm like, damn, this is crazy.
And you're generating income in a sense of revenue. I mean, if they're charging back then maybe 25, 30 a head times 400 people to see DJ Yoshi alone, that's incredible.
Yeah, so they were making $8,000 off of it, and for those who could drink, an extra $5,000. So $13,000 was being made off of the brand of the time. And that's how I was able to negotiate higher rates. And then when I actually signed with my first official manager, shout out to Nathan Sheard. I love you, my bro. He was able to say, listen, he's bringing 300 people to the club. He's not touching the turntables for longer than 2 hours, and you're going to pay him X amount of money. And the clubs were like, okay, cool. So that was that experience.
Wow. Just going through that whole timeline in regards to you just getting that one opportunity to open up for Flex because someone couldn't make it. Sometimes it's like that. You know what I mean? Whereas like you don't know when that opportunity is going to come, but you just have to just keep your nose to the grind. And when the opportunity, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I experienced that as an actor too. When I booked my very first film, it's how it happens. You know what I mean?
How was that? Because I've always wondered, like you're grinding out there as someone who's trying to act. You get your comp cards together, you get your reels together. How was it for you? And I want to know how was it for you compared to the music career and now the podcasting career? How difficult was it for you to get an agent to be able to do that, book it, audition and book it versus what you're doing right now?
Well, here's a story. I started acting in 2010, and I remember going to my very first audition. And mind you, I didn't get signed for years later. I'm just going to put that out there right now. I was working without an agent for years. And what I did is my very first audition was in Chicago, and I went out there on my own on a Greyhound bus, 39 hours round trip. I didn't get the role, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I was totally fine with that. But then, of course, I just wanted to get set experience. So I didn't care where I could work or whatever the case. If it was for free, I didn't care. I just wanted to get footage. I just wanted to get set experience. And this one particular film, and shout out to Rafiq Khan and shout out to Adrian Farr, who was the casting director for that film. Chess Boxing was being filmed. It was an independent film being shot in the city. And they said, hey, we need background extras for a club scene in Soho. Okay, cool. I'll be there. It was Sunday night. No big deal. I show up, and I remember from my first acting class I ever took, they always said, no matter if you're principal, if you're supporting, if you're background, always just bring extra stuff with you. You never know. And I remember, and guys, I hope I'm not boring you with this story, but Yoshi wanted to know, and I'm going to tell him. So I remember calling the casting director, Adrian, the night before. I said, hey, I'm driving up. I'm driving from Delaware. Is there going to be parking, for the, for street parking? And they said, yeah, why? And I'm like, oh, I'm coming from Delaware. And she said, are you sure you want to do this? And you're coming all the way from Delaware? And I'm just like, I don't care. I want to be there. And she was like, okay, I'm glad you told me. So I go to set. I'm there. I check in. I'm going into holding down to this. I forgot the name of the club. It was a bar/club in Soho. And I'm just sitting there, and we're just sitting around. We're filling out paperwork. And I remember Adrienne coming over to me. She said, hey, I need to see you for a second. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking they're going to send people home. I mean, I thought they were going to send me home because I'm like, why haven't we got started yet? I got there at 8:00. This has to be about 9:30. So she said, hey, this is the director. Say hello to him. I said, hi. And he was like, this is the assistant director here. I'm like, how you doing? And again, I'm thinking they're going to send me home. They said, hey, we overbooked this. Sorry we made you drive all these hours, to get here. The director was like, listen, we're in a bind right now. How long have you been acting? I said 7 months. And he was like, what article of clothing that's the color black did you have? I said, blazer, button-down shirt, slacks. He said, stop what you're doing. You're the new bouncer. You have lines to learn. Go now. And he sends me downstairs to go to get changed. Then they're putting me hair and makeup. They're giving me like the sides for the scene. Like everything's happening at one time. And it's hard for me to even process this. And I get to set, and we're getting ready to, we did some rehearsal takes, and the principal actor wasn't even in the scene yet. So by the time he gets there, he's talking to me as if I have been, casted for like 3 weeks. And the other bouncer's like, no, he's the new guy. He was like, what new guy? What are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, hi, I just got here today. I'm Derrick. He's like, you're new? I said, yeah. He's like, you just learned these lines? I'm like, yeah. He said, all right, keep doing what you're doing. And, that's how I booked my first movie. And we wrapped up at about 4:30 in the morning. He said, and the director said, hey, man, you have no idea of the bind that you got us out of. Because basically the actor, I don't even remember the dude's name now, but he thought that they were going to supply his wardrobe for him after they distinctly told him, no, like, you have to bring your own stuff. And he stuck around, though. He was like, hey, man, he's like, you look more like the bouncer than me anyway. So that's how I booked my first, That's
because you're like 6'10".
Yeah, right. But the cool thing is that door opened. Someone said yes, so others could. And I just slowly build my resume. So that further opened doors for stuff down the line. So, and now for all the things that I'm doing besides podcasting, with music, film, of course, and pro wrestling. So it's just that one yes in July 2010 that afforded me to be sitting here talking to you now. So I'm very fortunate. And I think I didn't mean to, hijack the interview because
I've always wanted to know, it's, for all the conversations that we've shared and all the times that we've just bullshitted and spoken about life in general, I actually never asked that question, and I've always wanted to know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like it was a long road, and it's still a long road. And I mean, I don't let a bunch of no's get to me. I don't let a bunch of it's not your time. It's not your time. And all I have to use that opportunity is to get better at what I do, and also put my focus into the other things that I'm doing too. That's helping me get to that goal. You know what I mean? But let's talk about some of the artists that you've worked with. And I'm looking at an array of talent here. We're talking about Diddy, Mariah Carey, Sean Paul, Mary J. Blige, John Legend, Maury Povich, the B-52s, Jamie Foxx. Prayers to Jamie Foxx, by the way. I hope he gets better. Slick Rick, Guru, Black Sheep, and the list goes on and on. So how does one get the opportunity, especially in the DJ space, to be able to get into these circles and play the events for these artists and celebrities?
So a lot of it is relationships and a lot of it is luck. and luck is the intersection of being prepared and opportunity. Right. So the people who I have relationships with, they put me in the right opportunities at the right times. And it was always like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? We need someone to do this. And at the time when you're on the come up, you're like, yes, 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 yes.
Right. You want to get as many opportunities as you can. I totally agree.
So, it teaches you two things, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
The good is that if you work for it and you're prepared, it may happen to you. It may. I don't like when people put this out there of if you work hard and you grind hard and, you're on top of your game, that it's going to happen. 90% of the time, guess what? It's not going to happen. I hear no 90% of the time, sometimes 95% of the time, maybe even 99% of the time. But that 1% that I hear yes, those are the opportunities that, Derrick just outlined for you. So just because you're working towards a goal doesn't mean you're going to hit your goal. So it also teaches, success in being prepared that way also teaches you a negative thing. It teaches you that you have to work hard. You have to grind hard. You have to do everything hard. Lack of sleep, sometimes lack of eating, other times lack of money. And, I didn't appreciate the opportunities that I had and the positions that I was put in to be set up for success versus just being in a position to set yourself up. So I didn't fully appreciate those and understand those until I was younger, until I was older and could fully comprehend the motions that other people had set forth for me. And I truly am appreciative for those people.
Well, I'm here right now with third-generation wrestler, Natalya. Thank you so much for giving us your time at the Believe Network and the D-Loop podcast. First and foremost, let me ask you this. Your father, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and your uncle Brett were in WrestleMania 2.
Right.
Now this is WrestleMania 39. In your mind, how does it feel representing the Hart family? Going from your grandfather Stu all the way to your uncles, your dad, all the way down to you. How does it feel representing the family now at WrestleMania 39?
It's an honor I don't take for granted. Having the most WrestleMania matches of any woman in WWE history. It's a huge honor knowing that I'm carrying on the torch that my family passed along to me. My dad, having been in the second WrestleMania with Andre the Giant and Bret Hart, the last three, I think about my dad when I walk through the curtain, and I will be thinking about him on Sunday we're wrestling. I don't think they've announced that yet, but when I walk through the curtain, I'm going to be thinking about him and knowing that everything that he taught me, I'm bringing to the table.
Right.
We're going to win.
Absolutely. Speaking of that match, obviously you're in a fatal 4-way tag team match achievement with Shotzi, and you have your work cut out for you.
Yes.
So how have you prepared her? Because this is her first WrestleMania. So any advice had you given to Shotzi, going out in front of that crowd?
We got to fire on all cylinders. We got to stay ready. We don't get ready. We stay ready. And Shotzi's been training with me in the dungeon, and she's been doing such a great job of staying focused. Last year, she lost her dad. Yeah. She lost her stepdad. Her sister was diagnosed with cancer. It's been a really hard year for her. So to see her get to be a part of her very first WrestleMania, I know she's going to be nervous, but I know she's going to deliver.
Awesome. My last question is, what is your goal for 2023 and beyond?
My goal for 2023 is to win the Women's Championship on Raw. I've never won the Raw Women's Championship, and it would make me a Grand Slam champion. That is my goal.
Well, Natty, as always, thank you so much for giving your time, and thank you very much. This is Derrick Lewis reporting to you live from Los Angeles here for the D-Loop podcast on Believe Network.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
This is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from Los Angeles at the WrestleMania 39 press junket. I'm here right now with Valhalla along with the Viking Raiders. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
We're great.
Well, what does being a part of WrestleMania mean to the three of you?
Everything. The gods have truly, like, I know people are like, the Vikings, the gods, like, it's not, but truly, the gods have blessed us with this opportunity, and we would be fools not to take full advantage of it. And that's what these guys do. They always show up. They always do their best, and they always do exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm excited to give my energy to the boys and to help lead them into victory.
Yeah, I mean, Ivar and I have dreamed about this since we were 5, 6 years old. So to be here in this moment and to be able to live this, especially side by side with family and brothers and wife and together, is something that we can never replace, we can never duplicate. This is a moment in time that's going to live forever.
We'll be old talking about this, for sure.
That's the goal, right? We're all, no, you know, no. We're all young at heart, right? Exactly. So so obviously you're in a fatal 4-way tag match this weekend. What's your goal coming out of this weekend?
Destruction. We're gonna get that ring. We're gonna destroy it. That's the plan.
It's always served well. Yeah. It's always, yeah.
Who do you think is gonna be your toughest challenge in the match?
We talk about this, but I mean, we had a lot of history with the Street Profits. We've been butting heads with Braun and Ricochet now for a while, but every team in this match, we're all warriors. They're warriors and tough competitors. So, but the toughest team in the match is the Viking Raiders.
Well said, well said. My last question is, what is the goal for the Viking Raiders in Valhalla for 2023?
To continue to listen to the gods. They have driven us in a path that we have so much momentum behind us that we cannot be denied. And that just goes to show that's true, because we have a WrestleMania match, we will have a WrestleMania moment, and we will be out there together. Just have the gods have seen it, and just have the gods have willed it. And I am honored to be able to do that for the gods and with the Viking Raiders.
Well, again, thank you guys so very, very much. Again, this is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from Los Angeles at the WrestleMania 39 press junket for the D-Lou podcast on Believe Network. This is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from Los Angeles at the WrestleMania 39 press junket, here with the monster among monsters, the monster among men, the one and only Braun Strowman. Thank you so much for giving us your time. How are you?
I'm doing good. A little tired, not gonna lie. Trying to reserve my energy so I don't exert too much for the big dance this weekend. Earlier on in my careers, I would be going crazy and be wondering why I was all tired at the show days.
Right.
I'm saving my energy, so I'm gonna take it out on those poor souls in that.
Indeed. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine for just a little bit. Your first WrestleMania moment, WrestleMania 32. You're in the ring with Eric. You're in the ring with Braun Strowman. I mean, with Bray Wyatt and The Rock.
And Cena.
And Cena.
In front of 101,000
people. Take me through what was going through your mind knowing that moment was happening. You're in there with The Rock, Cena.
Knowing that moment was happening didn't prepare me for the moment when it happened. Like, I was like, okay, cool, we're doing stuff with The Rock and Cena. All right. Until you walk out there and you hear the reaction of 100,000 people, not only for them, but for us walking out as a Wyatt family, seeing 100,000 fireflies light up AT&T. Look,
yeah,
and every hair on my body to stand up thinking about it. To being out there with our entrance, to hearing Rock's music hit, to hearing Cena's music hit, to getting in there, getting that action done, man, it was awesome. I mean, it really, for how else, I mean, to be real, that's a pretty good way to do WrestleMania for your first time.
Sure.
I've had some unbelievable WrestleMania moments, from winning the tag titles with Nicholas, to throwing Shane McMahon off the top of the cage, to beating Goldberg. I've wrestled at the largest attendance WrestleMania in history, and I've wrestled at the smallest WrestleMania attendance in history.
How was that, by the way?
It was weird, to say the least.
Because, I mean, when I was watching it as it happened, obviously we were going through a global pandemic at the time, and it was a way for me to get things off my mind. But watching it back, it's like I couldn't even imagine, because I'm in the wrestling business too as a ring announcer, having no fans to feed off of. How difficult was that?
It was hard. Like, I'm very proud of everyone through that whole time that stepped up during that one, exactly what you said, getting content out there to take people's minds off what was going on in the world.
100%.
We were the only entity on the planet doing it, and I was so proud to be able to be a part of that. Even, like I said, if I took somebody's mind off of what was going on in the world for 30 seconds, that means I did my job at the end of the day.
Right.
So it was so cool to be able to do that. But yes, exactly that. Trying to dig deep, like, people don't realize how much the fans and the energy and the excitement that they portray or output gives us energy, and like literally the adrenaline, like when the crowd's going crazy, I don't feel anything. When there ain't nobody making noise there, you feel every bump, every step. You can hear your heart beating. Like, it's such just different, so weird, because normal wrestling, you're doing something, you're waiting, listening for the crowd's reaction. Now It's just like, you do something crazy and you're like, you literally hear a mouse fart in the corner.
Exactly.
But that said, at the end of the day, man, it was a weird, crazy, scary time, but it was such an awesome time to be able to do that, to take people's minds off of the craziness in the world. And I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to be there to do it. I think all the other WWE Superstars. But let's be real, I'm happy we're back. The world's back. Somewhat running normal.
Yeah.
We got an unbelievable show this weekend. I mean, over 65,000 people each night in SoFi. We got a Crypto.com arena next door, sold out for SmackDown, sold out for Raw. I believe it's sold out for NXT. Man, wrestling LA, let's go, baby.
Yeah, man. And speaking of your match this Saturday, you're in a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match with your partner Ricochet. The tag team came out of nowhere, and you guys are gelling together. It kind of reminds, and again, I'm an old school wrestling fan, it reminds me a little bit of Diesel and Shawn Michaels. Which other tag teams have you watched? Because now you say you're in the tag team scene right now. Which teams have you looked at as far as saying, I can steal a little bit of this, a little bit of that?
What's funny? None. I don't watch any tag team wrestling to steal any moves from them. Ricochet and I watch Marvel movies. We stole stuff from Colossus and Wolverine. We're stealing stuff from Juggernaut. Like, that's where we're doing the stuff. Because here's my thing. I have so much respect for all the men and women that have done this before me. I don't want to be them. I want to be the first Braun Strowman. I'm not trying to be the next Diesel and Shawn Michaels. We're trying to be the first Ricochet and Braun Strowman. So I have so much appreciation for it. I never steal anybody's stuff. I never mimic anything because I want to be the first. I want to be original. I want to be me.
And my last question for you, and again, I appreciate you taking the time. What's your goal for 2023 and beyond?
2023, stay healthy, put smiles on people's faces, inspire people to chase their dreams, believe that the world's yours for the taking. Do what makes you happy as long as you're not taking someone else's happiness away. Let's get some gold around this waist again.
Yeah, man. Well, again, Braun, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, this is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you from the WrestleMania 39 press junket for the D-Lou podcast on Believe Network. Derrick T. Lewis reported to you live from the WrestleMania 39 press junket representing the D-Lou podcast and Believe Network. I am here with the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler. Welcome. How are you?
I'm all right, man. It's WrestleMania.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about your transition from MMA to pro wrestling. Was it an easy transition from the start, or was it a little bit? Was it a struggle, or what? In your opinion, how was the transition for you?
So I think I have a little bit of a leg up compared to other athletes that came from MMA to pro wrestling in that I specialized in catch wrestling, which is pro wrestling.
Right.
So I think just coming from that branch rather than like a more traditional MMA, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I did, I have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. Right. I think just knowing that catch wrestling side helped me transition a little bit quicker, but there was obviously some things like listening to the crowd, stuff that you...
Psychology and everything,
MMA, you push that out. You don't want to hear the crowd. You only want to hear your corner. But in wrestling, you want to hear the crowd. So there was little stuff like that. But yeah, I think like the catch wrestling has been the big advantage for me.
All right. So obviously you're a longtime wrestling fan. So have I. What was the first WrestleMania that you actually watched?
I think maybe 25.
Shawn and Taker?
Yeah, that's the earliest one I remember. I remember moments from like ones before, but I think the one I was really cognizant about the whole thing was probably 25.
Yeah, that was probably one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history for sure. Yeah. So obviously you have a history with Ronda Rousey and the Four Horsewomen. Going into this WrestleMania as her tag team partner, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, this is kind of like a full circle moment for me because I moved from South Dakota to LA to live and train with Ronda.
Right.
And so this is kind of where it all started, you know? So it's cool to have this moment, WrestleMania, the biggest moment you can have in the business, happened here where it all started. That's kind of a cool, like, full circle moment for me. So it's pretty cool.
And what are one of your goals for this year, for 2023?
I think we want to clean up. I think I would love to see, to bring prominence to the women and the stories that we can tell. As prominent as like Black and Gold NXT, where I don't want there to be any argument about where the best women's wrestlers are. There shouldn't even be a discussion with all the talent that we have. So hopefully we can continue to showcase that. And on top of that, if I'm beating everyone up and you can say that, then I'm the best of the best.
Exactly. One more thing. You're an avid gamer.
Yes.
What are the games you like that you've been playing constantly
recently?
now? Yeah.
I've been on Hogwarts. I'm at the point on Hogwarts where I have so many hours that I kind of want the story to be done, but I'm a completionist, so I have to do all the side quests. But been playing that. Seafood just got released on Steam, and I have a Steam Deck, so I'm playing that. I've been playing Gunfire Reborn with the BRE. So, yeah, those are the three main ones right now.
Awesome. Your dog.
Yes.
I absolutely love your dog.
Best dog in the world.
Yeah. Tell the world about your dog.
My dog is a rescue, and she's a hyper-emotional, needy baby pibble. But she's awesome. She's I got her actually here. She got her here also, and she packed up in the car and moved across the country with me. So she's the best. And if you haven't, she has an Instagram. Follow me, follow her. She's the best.
Well, Shayna, again, it's an honor and a privilege to have you talk to me just for a few minutes. I know you have a pretty busy weekend ahead. Again, this is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from the WrestleMania 39 press junket for the D-Lou podcast by Believe Network. Well, this is Derrick T. Lewis with the D-Lou podcast representing Believe Network. I'm here at the WrestleMania 39 press junket with King Coda herself.
Oh,
yes,
that's a nickname.
That's right. Dakota Kai, one of the members of Damage Control. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Wanted to ask, over the last maybe 9 months or so, obviously it's SummerSlam. This is the first time we've seen you. And what was that like, being back in the fold of WWE?
Oh my gosh, that 24 hours before SummerSlam was a whirlwind because I was obviously with this. I wasn't with the company at that point in time, and I literally got a call from Triple H like the day before. Not even like I didn't even know I would be with the company, let alone start like debuting at SummerSlam. So doing SummerSlam that whole day, hiding in the bus. We got all like
right.
We got to be hidden and snuck into Gorilla. It's very weird even walking down the ramp because like a day before I had no idea I would even be a part of the company, let alone doing SummerSlam like that. And let alone being a part of a moment, walking up to, with Bayley, with Io, towards like Becky and Bianca and having that moment right there. It was very weird because like in my mind I was not prepared at all for it. Like even when like Triple H called me, he's like, "You want to be back at the company?" I'm like, "Sweet, I got time to get gear. I got time to like do all the stuff."
Right.
But then he's like, "Oh no, like tomorrow." You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
I want you to fly it tomorrow morning. I'm like, "Oh shoot, yeah." So yeah, very weird.
So have you noticed a difference in regards to being in NXT versus being on the main roster? Or is it pretty much similar?
They're very similar, but I think for being a part of like Raw and SmackDown is very fast paced. It's very like go. Very much like a sink or swim environment too. Like with NXT, they very much prep you, but I feel like it's more of a learning experience there. Like this is like just throw you in and see if you like make it or not.
For sure.
Sink or swim, but it's such a fast paced environment. Like for me, I have to sort of step out and look at all the stuff I'm doing and be grateful for that, because when I'm in it, it's just so hard. You're just like, go, next thing. And that's something I want to do for myself, is just like force myself to step out and be thankful and look at everything I'm doing and be like, holy shit, this is crazy. Sorry.
No, it's cool. No, this is cool. It's all good. It's all good. Exactly. So you're obviously in a group with Io Sky and Bailey as Damage Control. How was the experience being in a faction that's being featured at this year's WrestleMania when you're facing Becky Lynch and you're facing two Hall of Famers, Trish Stratus and Lita? Is this something you've ever envisioned happening in your career?
No, absolutely not. Like, it's just so weird to me. So, you know, Bailey has been talking to me about this faction for like years now, since the first Mae Young Classic, which was 2017, 2018.
Oh, wow.
So I was one of the OG pitchers. She wanted to like be a part of this group, and obviously that group evolved and changed. And it's so weird, like when she told me before SummerSlam, before anything, she was like, hey, I've like sent this idea to Triple H to see how he likes it. And in my mind, I'm like, cool, I hope it works out well for you. Like, I didn't think he would be like wanting to bring me back into the fold. But yeah, being like with Damage Control and everything that's happened since SummerSlam has been like insanity. I can't even like, I don't know, fathom all the things that we've done. It's just really weird. But like you said, being in this 6-woman tag against like two Hall of Famers and Becky, who's a future Hall of Famer, it's very surreal. Like I used to watch Lita and Trish. I used to like their feud is one of my favorites of all time. It's like, it's a lot of it, like our favorite, like as women coming up through the business, you know? So it's very, very crazy.
Well, thank you very much, Cody, for your time. Best wishes to you this weekend at WrestleMania.
Thank you. Appreciate
all right.
it.
Take care. This is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from the WrestleMania 39 press junket, the D-Lew Podcast Believe Network. I'm standing here, Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Very well.
Thank you for giving us your time. WrestleMania 23 was your very first WrestleMania, Ford Field, Detroit, Michigan, 80,000 fans. What was that feeling coming out for that first WrestleMania, in your opinion?
It was exhilarating, to finally be on the biggest stage of them all in the entire wrestling industry, to compete for a prestigious title at that stage of my career. It was something I always knew that I would be able to do, but to finally have that realization in that moment was very cool.
Now, obviously, you're leading the charge now at the career of the Nigerian giant, 7'3", Omos. How has the transition gone from pro wrestler to advisor, manager? How has that transition been for you?
I love it because I'm at a stage in my career where I don't have an interest in actively competing. I haven't hung on my boots yet completely. I still dust them off when necessary. But I take all of my experience and everything that I've learned, and now I can use it to help other young athletes. Accomplish their professional dreams and goals.
Now, obviously, the match this weekend everyone's talking about is Brock Lesnar versus the Nigerian giant Omos. There's been some negative stuff, and I'm sure you've heard it. In your opinion, how do you see this match playing out, in your honest opinion?
Kind of like how it has on Monday Night Raw the last 2 weeks. Brock will do what he normally does, try to manhandle the Nigerian giant Omos, and be violently reminded that the Nigerian giant can't be manhandled. He can't be suplexed, he can't be F5. So what else does Brock Lesnar have in his bag of tricks? Nothing. I don't think it ends well for Brock Lesnar.
Right. Now, other side of things outside of WWE, your music. You were just in the studio recently recording some new tracks. Let's take us a little bit behind the scenes as far as what's going on musically.
Well, musically, I have, today's Friday, right?
Yes, it's Friday.
Okay, a brand new song came out just today with my artist Dwayne Swayze and the legendary Smoke DZA. I do a little cameo on it, but it's called Full Circle. It's on all streaming platforms. And I have a single called The Real MVP. This dropping April 21st. It's also on all platforms. And music has always been an escape for me. Now, people have asked me, how's your rap career? I don't have a rap career. It's not something that I'm pursuing as a career. It's a creative outlet for me. I like to make hip-hop music, and I have fun with it.
Indeed. My last question for you, obviously, again, you're always dressed to the 10s, rather. You know what I mean? Ever since, when you was the highest paid SmackDown athlete back in 2006, the highest paid. Will we ever see an exclusive MVP suit collection?
That's a very good question. That's something that I've never contemplated, but definitely food for thought. Never say never. But I promise you, it won't be like Steve Harvey. I don't wear clown suits, so it'll be something a little more classy. Maybe something along the lines of like a Ralph Lauren.
Well, MVP, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Derrick T. Lewis here with the D-Loop Podcast on Believe Network. WrestleMania 39 Press Junket. I'm here with my Wheel of Fortune opponent, the EST of WWE and the current Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. Thank you so much for giving us your time. How are you?
I'm good. Road to WrestleMania, so I'm feeling great.
Absolutely. So again, this is your third WrestleMania. The first two, you were in pursuit of a championship, and now you're defending it. Which one means more?
They all mean the same in their own way. It's just that the goal is different. Instead of me going after, I'm trying to keep it. It's hard to get to the non-top, but it's equally as hard to stay there. So this year, I will say the pressure is more pressure this year for me. I feel like this is my biggest WrestleMania yet. I can go 3 feet. If I win, I'll be long shot, be the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion. So it's a lot of pressure this year.
Yeah, because you're approaching one full calendar year as champion. Does that add the pressure a little bit? The fact that you as far as reaching that milestone?
Yeah, there's everything to me is on the line at this WrestleMania. This title that I have on my shoulder, I won it at last WrestleMania. I'm bringing it to this WrestleMania. So it's all about completing a full circle. And if you don't complete the full circle, it's like you almost had it, but almost doesn't count. So
absolutely. Now let's talk about your outfits. Obviously, it's well known, well documented that you are the proprietor, you're the owner of all of the clothes that you make. You make everything. How many hours goes into each of one of your wrestling outfits that you wear to the ring?
I don't even know how many hours. What I will say is that any free time that I have mostly goes to making gear. I don't have a lot of free time at home, and so I'm usually packing my sewing machine in my suitcase. I'm sewing gear in the airport. I'm sewing gear on the airplane. I'm sewing gear backstage in the locker room. I'm sewing gear in the hotel room. It's something that I put my all into, and that's what I want to do. I want to put my all into what I do, whether it's in the ring, in the weight room, practicing promos, or making wrestling gear.
So Asuka, let's talk about her for a second. Your opponent, yeah. So out of all of the opponents that you face, what's your main concern facing Asuka this weekend at WrestleMania?
Definitely that, my past WrestleManias, like you said, I was the challenger. There's nothing more dangerous than someone that has nothing to lose. Asuka has everything to gain at this WrestleMania, so that automatically makes her dangerous. She's going after a big WrestleMania win. She's going after the title. She's going to put it all on the line. But also Asuka, I've always considered her one of the greatest female wrestlers in the world. But she's come back different. She looks different. She has a different attitude, different personality. You really can't figure her out. And I think that that's the hard part about her. She's very unpredictable, so it's hard to compare for someone where you don't really know what's coming.
For sure. Post WrestleMania, what are your goals for the Mania 2023?
Mania 2023, after WrestleMania 2023. Well, I want to make it at least a week after WrestleMania so that I can become the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion. But I'm just looking forward to whatever opportunity is placed in front of me, accomplishing that, going after that. And I want to take this title to next WrestleMania 40.
Well, I plan on being in Philadelphia for that as well. Bianca, again, thank you for your time. Thank you. This is Derrick T. Lewis reporting to you live from the WrestleMania 39 Press Junket, D-Loop Podcast, Believe Network. I'm standing here with NXT Superstar, Grayson Waller. Thank you for giving us your time.
You're welcome.
You got it. So obviously this weekend you have a huge match, an unsanctioned match with the heart and some say the heart and soul of NXT.
Was. Past tense. Yes?
Johnny Gargano. What's going on? Tell me what's going on in your mind as far as why has this become personal for you?
It's personal because he has come back to my house now. Like whatever happened 15 months ago happened. He had every opportunity to come back. While he was gone, I took over. Each and every week, I had guys like AJ and Apollo, R-Truth coming down to fight me. I established myself as the guy in NXT. Then all of a sudden he wants to come back now. Like, I'm kind of frustrated with that. I take that personally, especially getting involved in my business. Like, I wanted a big match to stand and deliver, and that was going to be Shawn Michaels, and he took that from me as well. So he was the heart and soul of NXT. I am now the heart and soul of NXT, and I plan on showing everyone that tomorrow.
So it's unsanctioned. What do you have planned? What's in store for Johnny Gargano?
I would be a stupid man if I told you right now. Because that dude loves the internet, and he's probably paying attention, and he might find out. I'm not giving away any secrets. But if you love Johnny Wrestling, if you love 5-star classics and the big matches that Johnny Wrestling has done, don't expect that. I'm not here to wrestle Johnny Gargano. It's an unsanctioned match. I'm here to fight him. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to put him out. So if you've got kids or you're squeamish, I wouldn't pay attention to this match.
Wow, so you spoke of Shawn Michaels. You said you wanted to face Shawn Michaels. Is this the end of your pursuit to wanting to face Shawn Michaels?
I think Shawn had his opportunity. I called him out and he turned it down. I don't think Shawn wants it. So there's only so many times you can call someone out. Like, I said some real wild stuff to Shawn, trying to get him to come out of retirement. Obviously, he doesn't want it. So my energy and my efforts are going elsewhere now.
For sure. Now, obviously, again, this is WrestleMania weekend. Looking at the future, do you see yourself as a main eventer at WrestleMania sooner than later?
100%. I think if you're here in WWE and your goal is in a main event WrestleMania, why are you even here? I'm not the kind of person who has small goals. I'm not complacent. I don't get comfortable. I always want more. So the main event of WrestleMania, I can see my face on that, and I think a lot of people can too.
And we're in the bright lights of LA, obviously. Do you see yourself in Hollywood someday?
It could be. You know, I've done some stuff before. You know, I was on reality TV. I was on Young Rock. But right now I'm focused on WWE. I rep the brand, and I want to do everything it takes. You know, some people are focused on that stuff. For me, I want to be the best in this entire company. So that's where all my focus does. And to be honest, LA's a bit of a hole. I don't think I could live down here. Like, I'm pretty happy in Florida. The weather's good. This place is gross. I can't wait to leave.
All right, well, Grayson, thank you so much for giving us your time. Again, best luck to you this weekend at NXT.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate
it. You got it. Derrick T. Lewis here, reporting to you from the WrestleMania 39 press junket, representing the D-Loop podcast and Believe Network. I have Mommy representing the Judgment Day, who's going to be challenging Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship at this year's WrestleMania. The one and only Rhea Ripley. Thank you for joining. How are you?
Of course, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So let's go into the way back machine just a little bit. 3 years ago, WrestleMania 36.
Yep.
No fans.
Nope.
You defended the NXT champion, the Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair, and she walked out with the title. What's the difference between then and now?
Man, I mean, 3 years ago, I was a different Rhea Ripley. I thought I was ready. I was NXT Women's Champion. I was on top of the world. I just beat Shayna Baszler. I was ecstatic. I had all the confidence in the world, and Charlotte brought me back to reality. I still took her to the limit, though. I took her to an absolute limit, and yes, she walked out with my championship, but it taught me a valuable lesson, and that's to keep growing. So I've been growing over the past 3 years. I've been accomplishing so many different things. I've become the Raw Women's Champion, the Tag Team Women's Champion. I won the Royal Rumble match. Came in at number 1, made it all the way to the end, and beat everyone.
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast. So like I've just experienced so much in the past 3 years, and I feel like I've just grown not only inside the biz but outside the biz as well. Because I'm only 26, so I'm still finding myself and growing up as a person as well. But I feel like I've put in the work, I've put in the effort, and WrestleMania 39. Sorry, my words are getting confused. But WrestleMania 39, it's going to be my year. I think Charlotte is so stuck on what happened 3 years ago at WrestleMania 36 that she's not realizing the Rhea Ripley that she's stepping in the ring with. And I'm a whole different athlete.
For sure. Last question. You get the comparisons, I'm sure you heard them, regarding China.
Yes.
Having met China 20-some years ago, and I see the comparisons in regards to strength, confidence, beauty, all those things wrapped into one. How does it feel being such a role model, especially granted to boys and things like that, but to young girls, that you're teaching them about, hey, you can be anything you want to be regardless of your size and all those other different things. How does it feel being a role model to so many young women?
It's incredible. It really is. Like, I love seeing things social media where young women cut their hair, or they start going to the gym and lifting weights, or they just accomplish something that they wanted to accomplish, because there's nothing more rewarding than proving people wrong.
Right.
And I feel like women, we always get told that we can't do certain things or
Right.
look certain ways or lift weights and get bulky and have muscle. Like, I think that's absolute crap. You can do whatever you want to do, and I feel like the platform that I'm on is the perfect place to show young women all around the world, and even men, that they can accomplish anything that they want to, and they just have to focus, dedicate themselves to whatever it is, and do it. Even if it is just cutting their hair short. Like, you look beautiful how you are, just be confident being yourself.
Absolutely. Well, Rhea, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on my platform, and I wish you all the best this weekend at WrestleMania 39.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you here at the WrestleMania 39 press junket representing the Dulu Podcast and Believe Network. He don't miss, because he is him.
I am.
He's challenging for the NXT Championship tomorrow at NXT Stand and Deliver, the one and only Carmelo Hayes. Welcome. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. So good.
So let's talk about it, man. Obviously, you had a few reigns as the North American champion. Now you're at the next level, the top level, challenging for the NXT Championship against Braun Breaker. You two have been on this collision course where you guys were far apart for a while.
Right.
And it was only a matter of time where this match was destined to happen.
Right.
In your opinion, where do you see this match when it stands the test of time and all the great matches that we've seen in NXT?
So I think it's more about the moment than it is about the match. You know what I mean? I think that this is more about the moment, like you said, man, of two dudes who, you know, carry the NXT 2.0 brand, finally getting to meet. And then the moment of possibly getting a new champion, and then the moment of, you know, somebody who, like myself, you know, who you know, has been saying, I don't miss, and then I miss an opportunity, which I don't see happen. But I think it's, you know, it's the one of the two. It's the moment, not the match. You know what I mean? This moment is bigger than the match.
Right.
And bigger than anything we can do in the match. It's this moment.
For sure. Now, in the past, obviously Trick Williams has been your right-hand man. The dynamic with you two, and again, I get a kick out of it as a fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does it mesh so well with the both of you?
Yeah, it's cool, man, because like we're just very much so like just how we talk regular, and it's like, oh, maybe you say this and I'll say that, and you say that and I say that, and we're like, oh, good. So that's how we put together our stuff.
Right.
And it's so organic and it's so easy and effortless because that's who we are as people. You know, we're very just, you know, he's fun, and I can bounce off of that so easily. So it's like boom, 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 boom. All right, let's do that. You know.
The barbershop stuff was hilarious, man. I mean, just because at the end of the day, you know the barbershop.
Yeah.
Barbershop talk is like anything and everything goes.
Yeah.
And
we can debate, we can do whatever.
What did Eddie say in the barbershop? If you can't go straight in the barbershop, we go so straight. You know what I mean? That's why I love the organic between the both of you. So,
Thank you, bro.
in your mind, what's the trajectory? I can't even talk right now. The trajectory of Carmelo Hayes beyond Takeover.
Yeah, so I mean, it really, I'll focus on what's in front of me, which is, you know, getting that title. And I think once we get to that point, it's like then we can start mapping out where we're going. Because last thing I want to do is just assume that I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I got to focus on what's in front of me. The job is not done.
Right.
I'd be a fool to almost start, you know, treating it like I already won. You know what I mean? Like, I got to get to the dance. You know what I'm saying? Get to the dance, and we can talk about that, you know, after the fact.
And my final question is, dream opponent, if you're in WrestleMania 40 next year in Philly, and Lincoln Financial Field, dream opponent.
I just got to stay consistent. It's got to be Seth Rollins. I've been saying that everywhere. I should be switching up my answer. That'd be hilarious. But I got to stay consistent with Seth.
That will be an instant classic, and I plan on being in the house for that.
Cool, man.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, Derrick T. Lewis here with the D-Lou podcast from Believe Network. I'm here at the WrestleMania 39 press junket. I'm here with the illustrious tag team of Chad Gable and Otis, the Alpha Academy. Thank you so much for joining. How you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to take it back a little bit. Both of you are tremendous amateur athletes. How was the transition going from being an amateur athlete going into the world of professional wrestling?
For me, nothing changed. Definitely for me, the facials I've made them kind of naturally in the amateur wrestling world. As like Gerald Briscoe would say, who recruited me, it would be like, oh man, it was glad around the mat to watch this match. Because if I wasn't getting my way, I would get a little dirty, I would get a little mouthy a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, he knows I have a short temper at some points. But with that, like, it's just natural to be in front of a camera and just kind of, have fun and be like that. So that was the same. But the difference for me was like the part of the wrestling where you get a guy in a hole, don't really squeeze him. Give him a little. But
yeah, for sure.
Too. So that was, I get a little excited between the ropes there.
And for me, like, the physical part of it obviously was so easy. I think it is for any amateur wrestler or a lot of athletes in general, because, like, we have the body awareness already. We have the tendency to be able to deal with, like, putting ourselves through the physical abuse and that side of it. But when I first arrived at NXT and getting thrown in front of, like, 60 of my peers for a presentations class or promo class, as you want to call it,
right,
and just talk and come up with something, be a character, which I'd never done. It's like, okay, now I have anxiety. Now I'm stressing out.
Right.
And to get used to that and get over that hurdle was the hard part. And once I thankfully pretty quickly, it really opened my eyes to what we actually do here, which is entertain people, and so that was the biggest difference.
The dynamic between you two is amazing, and I think with you coming from a former tag team, American Alpha, you with Heavy Machinery, how were you able to bring this team together? Because you guys have such amazing chemistry. How did this come to be?
You're in the room.
Yeah, you touched on something there, which I think is unique to us specifically, which is like, okay, we both came from tag teams with guys that we considered really close friends on our tag teams. And now you'll talk to any tag team in the world right now and they'll tell you, yeah, this is my best friend, man. Like, we go up and down the road together. We're like, we spend every day. No, we were actually best friends before we were a tag team. So, like, we might share or be the only team that was like that. We're like, we've known each other since 2007. We trained at the Olympic Training Center together. We trained all over the world together. Amateur wrestling, came up in the ranks together, and then became a tag team as we were already best friends. So,
right,
like, I think we have a very unique hold on that whole best friends thing that everybody likes to say. For us, it's actually true.
True.
Yeah.
So obviously this weekend you're in a fatal 4-way tag team match.
Yep.
How do you see this playing out? Because obviously there's the Street Profits, former tag team champions and things, So do you see them as a big hurdle? And which tag team do you think is the biggest hurdle in the match?
Well, for me, my job is to be enforcer of those big men. So obviously, like, I can't be technical about it, but I'm going to go in there and go to the big man first. Definitely Braun and the other two big Viking hairy guys. They're going down there. So Eric Nevar going down, brother. So I enforce my will.
The biggest hurdle for me is, like, just strategy-wise, because it's a whole different dynamic with 4 teams. It's fatal 4-way. You got to keep your eyes on everybody. You can be tagged in out at any time. So, like, just strategizing so much differently than a normal tag team match is going to be the biggest hurdle. Not any opponent in particular, but just being like, man, eyes in the back of your head essentially the whole time, because everyone's out for you.
Right. Now, yeah. Oh boy. You two walk out of this match victorious. What's next for the Alpha Academy?
Well, I think the winner of this match, they're calling it a showcase match. So what's the idea? Go in, show out, show exactly what you're capable of. The winner should get, afforded some kind of opportunity, whether that's a tag team title shot or at least a look to get in the hunt. So the idea is win here, showcase ourselves like we're supposed to, come out the other side chasing those tag team championships.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Derrick T. Lewis reporting you from the Boys and Girls Club here in Los Angeles, California, representing the Believe Network for the D-League podcast. I'm standing here with WWE Community Ambassador Titus O'Neil. Global. Yes, it's global, worldwide. When he said Titus worldwide, that's for real. Just a couple of questions. I appreciate you. I'm giving you some of your time. When you were appointed global community ambassador, what did that mean to you?
It meant a great deal to me. Number one, it's the first of its kind. For the company to not only see the value in what I've done in community everywhere, specifically in my hometown of Tampa Bay, but also everywhere we've gone. And then also too, just being able to kind of spotlight the great work that we do at WWE. Kind of help facilitate superstars being engaged and understanding the platform that we have and how valuable it is for us to not only be successful in WWE, but be significant. And using this platform to put smiles on people's faces, that's our motto, that's what we do. But also to put hope in people's hearts and love out into the world. And we can do that with people from all different backgrounds, no matter what you look like, no matter what your political affiliation is, religious beliefs, it doesn't matter. we celebrate and honor people from all over the world, and so why not take this platform that we have in WWE with our billions of followers collectively and utilize it for good. And so being able to be the WWE Global Ambassador is a huge honor for me, simply because I understand that it is about significance. It's not about success. It's about making a significant impact and a lasting legacy. And to have a platform like this to do that, truly honor.
Indeed. Now, obviously, again, with the Be a Star rally, and it's been going on for a long time, has there been any other initiatives that's going to be put in place to make this program even bigger than what it is now?
Yeah, well, actually, we've tried different formats of this over the last several years to kind of continue to sharpen it, make it more engaging, make it more interactive for not just the children, for the kids that we are trying to drive this message home to, but also to make it more interactive for our partners. We got great partners like Cricket Wireless, who's been with us for quite some time now, and not only helping get out grants for various clubs, but they've helped us buy Christmas gifts for families, help give college monies to some of these high school graduates that are going off to college. So being able to continue to tweak this Be a Star program so that it's not just about bullying and relationship building, but also too just continue to bring in our various partners and have them be a part of making our lives better.
Well, Titus, again, it's an honor and privilege to have you speak with you. And again, we went back and forth a couple of times, but again, for all the things that you do, I've seen it. With backpack giveaways. When you have a stadium, when you have Mack trucks coming in and bringing it for the kids, it inspires me to do more. So I just want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk. Again, I'm Derrick T. Lewis, reporting from the Boys and Girls Club here in Los Angeles, the D-Loop Podcast with Believe Network.
WrestleMania week.